Welcome to Wannabe Clutter-free, formerly Wannabe Minimalist, the podcast for busy families who are tired of the chaos, fed up with being overwhelmed, and ready to enjoy life again. Each week, we talk about how to let go of the clutter so that you can focus on the things that actually matter. And it's not just physical clutter. We talk about the mental and emotional stuff too, because if it's holding you back, it's time to ditch it. I share what I've done in my own life to declutter, organize, and calm the chaos, but you won't just hear it from me. There are amazing guests too. It's practical, doable, and simple for those of us that want to be clutter-free. Well, hey there, my friend. Welcome back to the show. I'm Deanna Yates, and you are listening to episode 196 of the Wannabe Clutter-Free podcast. On today's episode, I am talking about the power of small actions. I think sometimes we get into big trouble when we think that we need to make these giant sweeping changes, or we set up these giant, huge goals. I'm sure you've heard of the big, hairy, audacious goal, and I think it gets really overwhelming. And so I want to talk about small actions and why I think that is really the key to transforming our lives. And we can completely transform our lives in just minutes a day. I really, truly do believe that. So that is what this episode is all about. But before we get into it, I do want to just take a moment to say thank you so much for joining me. I do not take it for granted that you are here listening to this podcast, and I hope the information today is educational, it's informative, but it inspires you into action, because that is what's really going to make the change in your life. You could listen to me until I'm blue in the face, but if you don't take action in your own life, you're never going to start to see the progress for yourself. And so that's what I'm hoping I can help you do today. And if you like what you hear today, there are a few ways that you can actually help the show. One, you can share it with a friend, and that also helps you get an accountability partner on your decluttering and organization journey, or just making changes in your life. And that is so powerful when you have somebody that you can connect with on that level. Two, you can leave a rating and a review for this show wherever you are listening to this podcast. You can do that on pretty much every podcasting app. So thank you so much for doing that. You can also comment and share this show on social media. You can tag me. I am at Wannabe Clutter Free on the social channels. And finally, you can become a supporter of the show for as little as $5 per month and get all of the episodes ad-free. I will leave links in the show notes, or you can go to wannabeclutterfree.com/196 for more information. Again, that's wannabeclutterfree.com/196 for more information on all of those things I just talked about. But let's get to today's episode, because I don't want to waste any time. So today I want to talk about small habits. And this show, it's called Wannabe Clutter Free. It's all about really letting go of the clutter in your life. And clutter, I do believe, is everything: physical clutter, mental clutter, emotional clutter. It all really will hold you back in your life. So it's not just the physical clutter that we need to look at, but that's generally what we talk about, because first off, it's the most tangible. You can make the most progress there as quickly as possible. It's pretty easy to look at a pile of stuff and declutter it. It is a lot harder to mentally deal with long-standing thoughts or beliefs, right? It takes a little bit longer to get over those, to go through them, unpack them, and then repack them in a way that works for you. If we want to make progress quickly, the easiest thing we can do is to start decluttering our physical spaces. Now, there are a ton of benefits when it comes to decluttering even that physical stuff. It will provide mental clarity, because we're no longer having to deal with the jumble of mess and the piles of stuff around our house. We start to check off the to-do list. We start to kind of mentally clear that out, because I am sure you have heard it said before that basically clutter is procrastination, right? It is delayed decisions that we just never dealt with in the first place. So if you bring something in and you just throw it on the pile, you are not deciding what to do with that stuff. You're saying, I'm just going to leave it here to worry about it at a later date. Let me tell you right now, life does not get easier when you just set things off to the side and try to wait for another time when it's going to be better and you're going to be less stressed and you're going to have more time. Life does not work that way. You need to start dealing with it now before it becomes that giant overwhelming pile. If it's already the overwhelming pile, that's what we're going to talk about today. Because decluttering can be magic. It helps us with our mental clarity, it reduces our stress, and we become more efficient in our homes. We can use our space for what they are meant to be used for, and that is living, not storing. Okay, so there are a few studies I would love to highlight. There is a study published in the Journal of Neuroscience, and it found that clutter can significantly affect one's ability to focus and process information. The research shows that physical clutter in your surroundings competes for your attention. So this is where I was talking about that mental clutter and the less clarity you will have, right? It results in decreased performance and increased stress, especially for women. I'm going to go into the next study. This is where this one showed up. It was a study conducted by researchers at UCLA's Center on Everyday Lives of Families. And there's a book. I actually bought this book. It's like kind of like a textbook, but I actually went out of my way to find this because it is such a fascinating look into people's homes. And they discovered a high link between high cortisol, that is your stress hormone, for the women homeowners of this study. When they walked around their home and they reported or they described their home as messy, their stress hormones went up. Now, it didn't happen to the men in this study. The men in the study, either they didn't describe their homes as messy or it didn't affect them as much. It didn't increase their stress levels, okay? So that study showed that clutter could lead to elevated levels of stress, and stress is so hard on our bodies. We are just now starting to study and figure out what stress actually does to us and how it affects us long-term on our health. And so the less stress we have, the better. So letting go of that clutter is going to help you bring down those stress levels. Your home does not have to be Pinterest perfect or Instagram worthy for you to see these benefits. So I never want us to think that that is what we're shooting for. We are just shooting for a place where we feel comfortable walking in the door. I'm not saying that you need to rush out. It doesn't have to match. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the newest or the greatest. It doesn't have to be the colors, those neutral colors you see online. It can be bright and cheerful. It can still have stuff in it as long as the stuff in it doesn't feel messy and overwhelming to you and the people in your home. All right. There was another study done. There was an article published in Psychology Today back in May of 2012 called The Clutter Cure. And the research indicates that the clutter can affect our decision-making abilities, leading to procrastination and difficulty in making choices. So a cluttered environment can overwhelm your brain, making it harder to focus on the task at hand. I mean, I don't need a study to show me this one, but I'm glad there are studies that prove it. I work from home. My desk is in the middle of our home. Like if you saw our house, it's a pretty open layout and I'm kind of right in the middle. So when the house is a mess, like if there's stuff in the living room or stuff in the kitchen or my desk has stuff all over it or the credenza behind me has stuff on it, it is so hard for me to sit down, focus, record this podcast, get back to people in emails, make things for social media, put on summits or, participate in the different things, anything like that. It is so difficult for me to sit down and concentrate because all of that stuff in my periphery, like all the stuff I can see, I'm like, oh gosh, okay, I've got to deal with that. And then I see something else and it reminds me of something else. And oh shoot, I forgot to do that. And oh gosh, okay, later I've got to remember to blah, 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 right? All of these things. So of course, a cluttered environment is going to lead to procrastination because one, I'm not going to want to do the work that's at hand. I'm going to want to clean up the house. Also makes it difficult making choices because I've got so many different things pulling me in different directions. I definitely don't want to stop and do that. Okay, so I think we can understand how the stress is coming through. And so how we know that letting go of this stuff is really going to help us start to have a clearer mind, start to make progress on our to-do list, make progress in the areas in our lives and homes that we want. And so I want us to know that even if we're just decluttering in a few minutes at a time, that is going to be so beneficial and make such a huge difference. And there are surprising reasons why. It's not just the decluttering. It is the mindset that goes around that. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will talk about the mindset of why 5 to 10 minutes set off in your day can really help you get over that procrastination hurdle.
I'm Margaret.
And I'm Amy.
And together we host the podcast, What Fresh Hell? Laughing in the Face of Motherhood.
Margaret, I would say you're sort of a where are my keys kind of mom.
Correct. Sometimes a where are my kids kind of mom. Well, you're aiming more of a, we were supposed to leave 35 seconds ago, Mom.
I mean, touche. In each episode of What Fresh Hell, we come at a topic from our usually completely opposite perspectives. I bring the research.
And I bring kind of the gimlet eye. Like, is that research really going to work, people?
And almost 10 million downloads later, we're still laughing.
We also talk to experts in the parenting field, plus parents with stories we can all learn from.
We make each other laugh, we challenge each other's assumptions, and we have what we think is the best parenting community on the internet.
Check out What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Okay, welcome back. So let's look at how setting aside 5 to 10 minutes makes a big difference in your day. I talk about this in my Doable Dozen guide. It's one of the daily magic 5 that I do every single day. We have a 5-minute power tidy as a family, and that means that we set aside 5 minutes to straighten up the house. Now, 3 of us times 5 means there's 15 minutes of work getting done, which is just amazing, first off. But also, it's great that we all participate together in cleaning up the house and making it our home. We all have a part. We all play a role in taking care of our home and in our environment. It doesn't all just fall on me or my shoulders. The other reason why it's so amazing to have this time set aside is that it lets my brain let go. So when I see things out and about, if I don't have that 5-minute set aside in my day, if I don't know that that 5-minute power tidy is going to happen and we are all going to work on it together, then my brain wants to stop whatever I am doing and go take care of that task right now at this time. Now look at how inefficient that is, right? That's not a great place to be. That's not a great way to act, because then I am no longer in control of my day. The stuff around me is in control of my day. My environment is in control of my life, and I want to be in control of my life, and I want my environment to help me improve my life. Okay? So that's where that 5 to 10 minutes of decluttering a day can make a big difference, right? You can do 5 minutes in the morning, you can do 5 minutes in the evening. You can set it up however it works for you, but having a set time that is carved out, that is just for that, allows your brain to say, yes, I see you. I see that thing over there on the coffee table, or I see that pile of stuff. But you know what? I have a time and a place and a purposeful moment where I'm going to deal with that. I will deal with it later. And it's amazing how that makes it easy to turn things off. So now let's look at how small decluttering sessions make a big difference. So I am sure if you are listening to this podcast, you have heard of the KonMari method, right? Her book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, really took the world by storm. Everybody started wanting to declutter and organize and get these clean environments in their house. And I totally get it. Hook, line, and sinker, I bought the book. I definitely jumped into it as well. And it was kind of hard because it was a lot at once. Those are big categories. That is a giant declutter. And it was super overwhelming, especially when I was starting out and I hadn't been on the decluttering path or bandwagon for a long time, and I had more stuff than I do now. So when I didn't have a handle on my stuff, making giant piles and gathering all of my things in one place and then decluttering a giant category at one time, super overwhelming. I got really defeated and I just didn't feel like I was doing a great job. I just didn't feel very good at it. On the other end of that spectrum, now that I've been decluttering for a really long time, I'm doing micro decluttering, where I do one teeny tiny little segment at a time, and I try to declutter 25% of that category. So I've used the example of my pencil cup. I have used the example of my desk at work, like my office desk. You can do your cutlery drawer. You can do the batteries. You can do your entry table. You can do your shoes. You can do your t-shirts. You can do your makeup bag. You could do your medicine cabinet, right? It's anywhere that's a tiny, small space where you are able to count the number of things you have before you start the declutter, then go through and pull things out and then count how many things you have left or count how many things you decluttered and see if you can get to your number. Now, that percentage number can be anything you want it to be. You could say if you're starting off and you're really scared, you can say, I'm going to get rid of 10% of everything we own. If you're starting off and you've never done this and you're really excited, you can say, I'm going to get rid of 50% of what we own. You might be surprised that you can get rid of a lot more than you ever thought possible when you do it in these kind of smaller categories, which I love. I love the small actions because I do think they make a huge difference. So you can kind of see how there's a big spectrum there. You can do giant categories because I think the KonMari method only has like 5 categories. So think about putting everything in your home into 5 categories. I mean, that's kind of a lot. So you're going to be doing big chunks at once, or the micro decluttering on the other end of the spectrum where you're doing very small segments of stuff. Now, of course, there are all sorts of different options in between. You can do a decluttering challenge where you just declutter 1 item a day. You could do my avalanche declutter challenge where you start with 30 items on day 1 and you work your way down to 1 item on the 30th day. I'll leave a link in the show notes for that as well if you're interested. You might do, like I do, the 5-minute tidy up session. But if you are trying to declutter at the same time, I would recommend doing a specific decluttering one and then a specific tidy up one. You could also just designate a special place for misplaced items. We have one of these. So we have a bin that's centrally located in our great room between the living room and the kitchen. And it is just a bin where we put anything that my daughter kind of just leaves out and it doesn't get taken care of in the 5-minute tidy, or for whatever reason it's still out. I can just put the things in there, and then at the end of the week or during our 5-minute tidy up, whichever comes first or however we feel like doing it, we can then take that bin and we can tidy up and take care of the things that are in there. I also have kind of an action bin for our mail, right? So I just batch our mail every Friday. It just is easier for me. I don't have a ton of mail that comes in. I don't have anything that's really pressing. So I just have all of our mail come in. I get rid of all the junk and the recyclable stuff right away. And then the rest of the mail just goes in the bin and I deal with it at another time. I don't want to have to deal with it on a daily basis. But these small actions help me then clear my mind by not having to think about it because I know there's a process in place and I know there's a specific time when I'm going to deal with these items. And then it allows me to then keep things moving. It's a little system. We talked about systems with Janet on episode 195, I think it was. Was that just last week? And so we, talked about different systems in your life that you can set up. And that's where these small actions really come in. These small little habits that we can then work in one at a time really can make a big difference. All right. The next section I want to talk about is embracing fresh starts. So when this comes out, we're in the middle of March. And I don't know about you, but the sun is starting to shine. There's, little sprinkles here and there because it's kind of that moment of we're turning from winter to spring. And I know I live in San Diego, but we still have a little bit of this moment where we do transition. And so I cannot tell you how many people I talked to this week that were like, oh, this weekend we started planting in our garden, or we, got the garden beds ready. And we did that at our house too. And I'm so excited about it. We have 2 raised garden beds on the side of our home that I have been meaning to get them prepped and get the soil in there and start trying to grow our own vegetables and things like that. And I'm excited. This will be the first year we finally got it done in time. I just never did. And then by the time I was ready to do it, it was already summer and it was like, well, that's not going to work. So I am really excited, but I cannot tell you how many other people I heard were gardening this weekend. And so now is the time, right? Let's embrace that fresh start. Especially as we go into spring, it is a time of renewal and fresh starts. And I did an episode on fresh starts, so I will link to that in the show notes as well. But let's use this energy, right? The symbolism of spring to kickstart our decluttering efforts. So there's going to be tons of talk about spring cleaning and letting the light in and the longer days. We just had daylight savings time here in the US, and so our evenings are lighter later. So use that time to just bring in this breath of fresh air. So there's going to be tons of spring cleaning tips. I will try to link to some of my favorites to see if there's some really good resources out there. Maybe you are into doing a spring cleaning challenge or something like that. And I will look to see if there are some good ones and link those in the show notes. But please, please, please understand that fresh starts are a great jumping off point. That's why we do New Year's resolutions, because it's a brand new year. It gives us a reason, like it gives us like a moment to say like, whew, okay, maybe I can drum up the energy to go forward with this instead of like, oh, but everything just feels so overwhelming. It's like, nope, right now it's spring and people are really excited about starting things fresh. So let's use that and embrace that energy and go forward with it as we start to implement these small, tiny habits. So let's take one more quick break, and then I want to talk about how we can create these small habits, how they can piggyback on each other, and how they can really make a difference in your life. So we'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's get into my favorite part about this topic and how we can actually take these teeny tiny habits and stack them over time and start with one. And then as that one starts to feel doable and easy, add on another, and then add on another. And before you know it, you are making huge sweeping changes in your life and in your home. And it doesn't feel like a lot of work because it started just minutes at a time and it expanded minutes at a time. So tiny habits are these small, simple actions that are really easy to incorporate into your everyday life. This is where you take an existing routine or an existing habit and you just add on one more step, right? So it's like you're walking up a staircase. So in order to get from floor 1 to floor 2, you're going to take a series of steps to get there. Because, obviously you're not able to just leap from floor 1 to floor 2, right? You have to take these steps. That's what tiny habits are like. So you will take one step, and then you will add on another habit, which is step 2. Then you'll add on another habit, step 3. And so you're kind of continually doing these steps. And before long, you're up at the second level and you didn't even feel like it was that difficult to get there. Yeah, you had to work a little bit. You had to go up the stairs, but it's not like trying to jump from level 1 to level 2. So let's look at an example of a tiny habit. Maybe you would say, after brushing my teeth, an existing habit, I'm hoping you're brushing your teeth every morning and evening, I will immediately wipe down the bathroom counter. And that would be your tiny new habit. So in order to get this habit to go, you're going to say, okay, what do I need to wipe down the counter? Well, do I want to use disposable wipes, or do I want to use a paper towel, or do I want to use a washcloth? So you're going to pick your method and then you're going to implement it. And you're going to just try it for a solid week to see how it feels. So then you're going to say, okay, so I brushed my teeth, I grabbed my washcloth, I wiped down the sink, and now we're good to go. I put it in the hamper. Okay, so there's your tiny habit 1. After a week, you're going to say, wow, my sink actually still looks clean. And guess what? I don't have to do a giant deep clean as often because I actually take care of it. I wipe it down every single day. It doesn't get out of hand. So that's going to be a huge bump to you on the weekend when you used to normally have to deal with deep cleaning your sink and your bathroom, and you just took care of it right there. But then you might extend that after a week. You might say, okay, I brushed my teeth and now I've wiped down the sink, and now I'm going to look for one thing out of in the bathroom that's out of place and put it where it belongs. And then you'll do that for a week. And then after a while, you're going to stop finding things that are out of place, right? Because they'll already be there where they need to be. So you can eventually drop some of these habits if they're things that are temporary, like the decluttering habit or organizing, once your things get to where they want to be. But I hate to break it to you, you probably will always be decluttering a little bit because you're going to be bringing things into your home on a regular basis. But it doesn't have to be this giant overwhelming thing. It just becomes second nature to you, and you start to realize like, oh, I don't use that anymore, and I'm going to let it go. And there's no longer this giant like hemming and hawing like, oh, but what if I need it someday? Or, oh, I might use it. You don't do that anymore once you start to get the decluttering process down. So let's look at breaking down habit stacking if you want to use this in other areas of your life and you want to create your own habits. So a habit stack works by using the formula, after this current habit, I will new habit, right? And this comes from both Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg and from Atomic Habits by James Clear. And so another example might be in your kitchen. After I pour my morning coffee, I will spend 1 minute organizing a drawer. Or for me, I make an espresso every morning, so it takes a little bit for my milk to froth in the frother. And so I can say like, okay, as I set my coffee to brew, I will look through my utensil drawer and see if there's anything in there that's out of place or I want to declutter. And again, that all happens right as it's happening, right? Instead of looking on my phone or scrolling through Instagram while I'm waiting for the minute for my coffee to brew, I can actually be productive and do something in my kitchen, which will make me happier later. That's where these tiny habits can really start to make a big difference in your life. So let's go through a few examples of how you can use tiny habits and habit stacking for decluttering and organizing, just so you have some really great ideas here, because these are one of my favorite ways to actually make a difference in your life. So maybe you'll do a morning routine stack, and it might be after I make my bed, I will put one item away that doesn't belong in the bedroom. An evening routine stack might be after I turn off the TV at night, I'll take 2 minutes to tidy up the living room. I love the 1 minute tidy up when you leave a place, by the way. So anytime you leave a room, you take 1 minute to put things back in place. That one is so great. Maybe you have a laundry stack that says after I fold a load of laundry, I will immediately put it away and declutter one item from the closet. Ooh, that's a 3-part stack right there. I love it. But think about it. Maybe actually, let's even go back a little bit further on that one. Maybe it's after I put a load of laundry in, I will set my timer for 60 minutes so I don't forget that the laundry's in there. After I move the laundry to the dryer, I will set another 60-minute timer so I don't forget to put it away. After it comes out, I will fold it and then put it away. And you can then declutter one item from the closet, right? See how these stacks can really start to go? So maybe you just start with that first one. If after I put the laundry in, I'll set a 60-minute timer. Then the next week you do the 60-minute timer after the dryer. Then you add the immediately putting it away. Then you add the decluttering one item from the closet, right? So they don't all have to be at once, because that one started to get kind of big. Did you feel it? As you started to say it, the sentence kept going on and on and on and on. So start really small, and then those you can add on as you go. Now, what I love about this approach is that it happens gradually. So you don't feel so overwhelmed. You don't feel deprived. You don't feel like, what if I need this someday? It just starts to become part of your life. And that's where the change really occurs. Because just like if you were going on a diet to try to lose weight, if you make drastic changes and they're not ones that you can sustain, you might lose a lot of weight. But then as soon as you stop being on quote unquote the diet, the weight is going to come back on because it wasn't sustainable. It wasn't part of your life. It didn't fit with your lifestyle. It was just something you were doing and you were fighting your way through it. Trust me, I've been there. I know what that feels like. Fight your way through it until you get to the goal. But then once you get to the goal, one, you're either not satisfied because it just doesn't feel right. You fought your way there. And two, it's just not sustainable. You will revert back to how things were before because it wasn't in line with how you wanted to live. Understand that the point of tiny habits and making these really small changes is to be able to sustain them. It's consistency, it's patience, it's watching these effects of these habits and these tiny small actions accumulate over time. Please, please, please note, we want to start small, and it will feel really small at first, but you can do habits in all sorts of different areas in your life, and I'll talk about some that I do in mine because they really can make a big difference. So I do different habits for different areas in our life. We'll tidy up with the 5-minute power tidy every night. I'll declutter by going through with my micro decluttering and going through one area and trying to declutter 25% of the things in that category every day. I exercise every day and I try to do 30 minutes now, but it started off with just 15 minutes. So if I can exercise for 15 minutes, that makes a big difference. But now I've worked my way up and I'm exercising longer every day, which is great. I also am doing Duolingo, so I'm learning a language minutes at a time every day. It's a small, tiny habit that I do every day and makes a big difference. Meditating, I love to do that as well. And again, started off as a really small habit, a couple minutes at a time, and then I extended it as I could go every day, just so where it would fit into my life. Again, not trying to do these big, giant, I'm going to meditate for 20 minutes, even though I've never meditated in my life, and it's going to be transformational. That is way too difficult. So I'm going to meditate for a minute and see how that feels. And now I'm going to do 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. Same with decluttering and organizing. I'm going to start in one small area. Because if you've never done it before, you can't do your entire house and have it stick. Because you're not going to know what you want, and you're not going to know how you operate and what makes you happy and the things you really need in your life because you've never done it before. So it is really great to make these small changes because they are lasting. It's a way that they can last over time. The point of today's show is just to show you that one, decluttering is really necessary for our mental health. We can start with our physical items and it will help with our mental health as well. We can embrace fresh starts, and right now is the perfect time to do it because we're turning over to spring if you are in the northern hemisphere, and honestly, you're going into fall in the southern hemisphere, and that is also a great time because you're about to get really cozy and be inside your house more. And so look at it as a way of like cozifying your home. I know that's not a word, but in order to make your home the place you want to be over the next few months. All right, so I want to encourage you to take a small step today. What is the one small step? What is the one small habit you are going to work into your life? I would absolutely love to know. So please come on over and share what you plan on doing with the community. There's lots of different ways you can reach out. You can reach out to me on social. Again, I'm Wannabe Clutter-free on Instagram and Facebook. I also have a private Facebook community called the Wannabe Minimalist Family Group over there on Facebook, and you can share with the community on there as well. You can also leave a review on Apple Podcasts, or you can comment on this episode on Spotify and actually let me know what you plan on implementing there. That would be really fun. But I just want to know what it is that you're doing. I would love to know the plan. So let your small, tiny habit today be telling someone and being accountable for the things that you want to change and the actions you want to take in your life. I believe in you. I know that you can do this. So please let me know so that I can help you along the way. And if you enjoyed what you heard today, remember you can share this show with someone who might need help making these small changes in their life too. So go ahead and share this episode with them. It might be the encouragement they need today, and they could be your accountability buddy along the way, which would be awesome. And of course, thank you so much for joining me today. I don't take it lightly that you are here. I really appreciate that you are here listening to the show. And if you enjoyed what you heard, could you take a moment and leave a rating or a review so that I know that I'm on the right track? Or let me know what else you want to hear. I would love to know that as well. Remember, you can get more detailed show notes from today by going to wannabeclutterfree.com/196. Again, that's wannabeclutterfree.com/196. And I will have links to all the studies and the research I talked about at the top of this podcast. So thanks again for joining me. With that, I hope you have an amazing day. I'll see you back here next week. I will be talking with Dr. Christine Coe about kind of more along these lines of these smaller habits. She's actually the one that I heard about this micro decluttering method from. And so it was really fun getting to connect with her. So make sure you join us for a really fun conversation next week. Until next time, take care, keep things simple, start where you are, implement one tiny habit, and remember, I believe in you. I'm Deanna Yates, and you've been listening to Wannabe Clutter Free. I'll see you next week. Cheers.